Welcome, everyone, to the Wednesday, the Hump Day edition, the Field of 68 Best Bet Show. I'm Matt Cox. I'm running host tonight. That guy's Kai. The other guy is Jim. The other guy is Kai. They're my fine colleagues here. But hey, this whole thing is brought to us by BetRivers, our fine sponsor. We thank them for making this show possible. Please subscribe to the channel, which is migrating to a new feed. We'll keep you posted on that over the next couple of weeks in preparation for the new year. Guys, a lot happened last night in the world of college basketball. We learned a lot. I learned I was wrong. I learned a lot of people were wrong about Memphis. Kai, let's start right there. Let's just talk about the Tigers and give a PSA to the potentially novice bettors who are watching this show.
I saw a post on Reddit. I saw people that have never bet a game in their entire life tell me how easy Alabama was yesterday. Fellas, just goes to show you, betting's hard. If the spread is where it's at, the odds makers probably have good reason for it. I went back to something I said yesterday about Memphis. Preseason, you would never make that spread. Alabama -4, -3.5. Now, Memphis has been playing terrible, but was it a lock, Jim? Obviously not. Memphis definitely showed up, came to play. Good for them. Hopefully Penny Hardaway gets that team back on track. Certainly better for college basketball if they do.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like anybody that's saying this is easy, this is a lock, is either uninformed or a hot take artist. And both of those are people that I'm just not super interested in following. Like, if you can't see why both sides of a bet might cover, then either you should apply for a job as an odds maker or you should not have that strong of an opinion. There are smart people in the room that make those lines. And we saw that last night big time with that Memphis and Alabama game. And kind of a more micro take from that game, guys. You bench Imani Bates, your team's really good.
It's nice.
Turns out the mega high usage guy that is causing locker room rifts is not terribly helpful. Duren was great as a roll man. Yes. The guards were actually finding him. There was ball movement for Memphis. I'm curious, guys, if there's anything going on with Alabama. They just played that war against Houston, and then Houston sat 3 guys against Louisiana, whereas Bama had to go on the road and play a mega athletic Memphis team. So the takeaway for Alabama is shrug. I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But for Memphis, it's okay. There's the ceiling. They've all seen what they're capable of. I think we have to get them close to where we had them preseason. I am not in a rush, but I'm comfortable putting them back up quite a bit, Matt.
Yeah, I think we're going to see the volatile ups and downs all season. I think that's just who Memphis is. Yep. Now, I think they found something with the concoction of Harris and Lomax being the primary initiators from the top and just using Duren as a dunker, right? He just sits on that spot. I mean, how many times they get in the lane, carve it up, throw it down, jam time, place goes berserk. And then you had Williams and Nolly, the veteran, sort of chipping in, filling in the blanks. And yeah, just take Bates out of the equation. You already have 2 good creators in Harris and Lomax. I think that made sense. Hopefully Penny plays that going forward. Still, they're going to be up and down all season. I think that's just kind of who they are. My takeaway was I was wrong, and I beat my chest about a potential Angle and Road Dogs barking emphatically last night. They did not. They actually closed out well in the later slates. I believe they closed the gap. But there was at one point, Kai looked at the slate and I was like, all 10 home favorites are covering and 6 are covering convincingly. Tough to see teams like Miami and Furman wave the white flag in the second half. Obviously, when Clemson shoots 13 of 24 from 3, you're not going to win many bets. And that's just kind of how the way the cookie crumbles. Anyway, enough whining, self-loathing. Let's get into the outline. We got a lot of games tonight, not as hefty as last night, but a solid slate before the off day tomorrow. So make sure you get all your questions in now via the chat mob. We'll try and hit those rapid fire throughout the show. We're going to Utah, the Beehive State, to start us off. And Jimmy, I want your initial thoughts on this. We tried to do some show prep before. Is this the Beehive Bowl? Is it the Beehive Boot? I don't know what the official title of the rivalry is, but Utah State is taking the not so far travel to Weber State. This game will be played at the D Spectrum Arena. The D, not as notable as the Spectrum Magic at Utah State, but still a fine venue. Should be a strong home crowd there. It's a short spread, opened around 2.5. Currently sitting there right now. Jim, what are you looking at? Home dog? It played pretty well for Memphis last night. We've seen some of these home dogs and non-cons play well. It's a repeat deja vu.
Yeah, I kind of think so. Weber's really good. I mean, the talent level on that team is high. They've got Kobe McEwen, who played at Utah State. Don't forget, this is a Kobe McEwen Revenge Bowl type of game. They've got Dante Bassett just debuted. He's a Florida transfer. JJ Overton, the Utah Valley transfer. Like this team is really good. Jawara is a down transfer from high major. So I don't think they're going to be outclassed talent wise. and you add in the fact that they've got this big crowd on their side. It's a huge home spot. And the coaching edge isn't like crazy. Like I think Randy he's the dean of the Big Sky coaches, and he's an excellent coach overall. So even though I respect the heck out of Ryan Odom for Utah State, I think that that's basically a draw. So Kai, I'm leaning heavy towards Weber State here.
Yeah, and I think Utah State, the narrative for them maybe going forward is they struggle more against athleticism and maybe a little bit of size. And that's Weber State, man. They're a very athletic team. They start no one, I don't think, under 6'3", and it's mostly 6'3" through 6'7", big wings. And Jim, I think Bassett being back is enormous. Just another body to throw a bean. He averaged a block a game in conference play last year, 10 points a game in conference play last year. Really sneaky debut, Matt, against that non-D1 team. Him back in the lineup is huge for them. Going to compete for rebounds, going to scrap with Utah State. I really do like Weber State here at home. I'm leaning towards them. Love that they're a dog here, Matt. Just love it.
Yeah, this is the real D. I'm all in on Weber here. I think this is a home run spot for them. From an at-large resume perspective, they've beaten pretty much no one, so I don't want to start going down that route. But
love that UMass shade.
That UMass,
you're
yeah.
No one.
Yeah, that's about it. Sorry, UMass Minutemen fans. But yeah, obviously they got blown out by Washington State. It's just a different class. And I think this is a more favorable matchup against Utah State without that dominant size. I think their skill and the way Randy Ray has reinvented his offense. He's talked about how he's had to adjust to the modern times and what kids want to play in. And now he's really opened it up. They're playing faster, more modern types of concepts. And it's clicking. And I think you kind of see that on display tonight here in a pretty juicy home spot. So early consensus agreement for the Weave. That's never burned us before. So
small caveat on the Weber Washington State. Wazoo was 13 for 22 from three. It's tough to beat any team.
True.
They're on the road as well. Different spot. Weber much better at home. Hopefully they bounce back against Utah State here.
Also, if you're in the area, go to the game. Support the boys here. We need you extra half point of home value. We'd much
Matt,
appreciate
you
that.
have nothing else to add on this game?
I guess it is my best bet, Jim. I'll just spoil it right now. The Beehive boys. To get it done for me here at the D Event Center. Randy Ray. Yeah, I just think it's too short. They should be a short favorite. And we're catching two free points. Two and a half for you. Two free points and the hook, courtesy of our fine sponsor at BetRivers. Hop in now before it moves, as I'm sure it will, as so many people are hearing me endorse this.
You've got buzzer beater insurance, Matt. So.
Good.
Yeah,
I'll have to use
provided it's not tied and there's a 3 at the end. So
yeah, there you go.
Knock on wood in that scenario.
Overtime's always fun. Always fun. All right, we're going back to the Midwest for our second game here. A lot of good mid-major showdowns tonight. Not really any major power versus power tilts, but we'll get to some of those later on, or some of the power versus mid-majors later on in the show. But Missouri State, Kai, hosting South Dakota State. Our Jack Ponies have gotten a lot of airtime on this program.
Yeah, as it should.
So on one hand, this is a team that lost to Idaho. On the other hand, it's a team that just beat Washington State, and we've seen them run roughshod over mid to meddling to low caliber competition in the non-con. We think the South Dakota State team is legit, but this is a tough matchup against an athletic Missouri State team that's getting healthier and that has some serious talent.
Yeah, South Dakota State's defense is terrible. Prairie View scored 90, Idaho scored 99. I mean, that's going to be a huge problem. Missouri State probably can score however it wants, especially if Gage Prim is fully healthy. If he's fully ready to go, I think he is. He's going to have an enormous game. Sharp probably saw it for Missouri State, their point guard. That's huge. I think Douglas Wilson, though, is a tough match for Missouri State on the other end. Jim, I just have this thing in my head, though, from if it wasn't last year, it was 2 years ago, where Missouri State's home floor is ridiculous. I could just be anecdotal, just certain games I bet against them, but I feel like it's a good home court. I'm a little nervous about that for the Jack Bunnies. A lot of points, fun game to watch. Probably staying away, slight lean towards South Dakota State.
Hey, BYU just won there, so it's not impenetrable as a fortress. And BYU was down Gideon George and the big guys, and they held up. But it did help that Prim was not himself in that one. I kind of agree. I think Wilson and Prim, they're two different kinds of big guys, and they're going to give each other problems. Wilson's so mobile, he can drive you from the perimeter, whereas Prim is just a brute. He can put Wilson under the basket and just back him down. So that's kind of a conundrum. How does either team stop each other? I mean, South Dakota State, a lot of their games come down to are the shots going in. And unfortunately, that's, the least complicated analysis we can offer. But for a team that's as reliant on threes and as good at shooting them, that's a big part of how they win games. I think they'll be okay in this one, but they are coming off that big buzzer beating emotional win at Washington State. I could see this being a slight letdown against a team with a monster inside. So yeah, I'm with Kai. Lean to South Dakota State, especially on the number, but not strong enough in terms of matchup and spot to endorse it here, Matthew.
Yeah, my number certainly likes the Jack Bunnies. I think this is a little bit high, but they're Missouri State's being priced like the team I think we're expecting at full strength, operating at full capacity on all cylinders. Just haven't really seen it consistently this year. We talk about the sharp absence of Prim's illness being an issue, but generally Dana Ford, the locals in Springfield, Missouri State fans will tell you the offense is never really airtight. There's a lot of my turn, your turn. There can go through serious lulls where they don't really know who's the alpha. Is it Prim? Is it Mosley? Mosley's playing better lately. Just a lot of that sort of disarrayness makes me like the Jack Bunnies more. It makes me want to take them, even though it's a tough travel spot. But I did ultimately stay away out of respect for JQH Arena, Kai, as you mentioned, with the oversized XXL bear in the middle of center court.
Mosley got benched against BYU.
Yep.
He played 7 minutes. Before that, he had put up 12 points and 7 points previously. He was in a rut, but he's combined for 46 in the last two. He seems to be back on the straight and narrow there.
Yeah, he went just nuclear last year, I think, around this time. So maybe he's about to return to stardom status. Next one here, we're going to Tennessee. Belmont will be hosting Chattanooga. Two fun little mid-majors here. Spread feels a little big. Belmont's awesome. We've talked about Belmont potentially pushing for an at-large berth this year. They certainly have the chops to play like a top 50 team at times. But Jim Nuga, Lamont Paris, he will not be coached. This will not be a chess versus checkers thing from a coaching perspective. He knows how to hold the clipboard. He's got 2 stars, 2 elite shot makers. Can they pull off the upset in Nashville?
I don't know if they'll pull off the upset, but I do think it's competitive. I'm not betting either side here. I think the slight money that's coming on Chattanooga taking this down from 7 was smart money. It's the way it should move. I don't think these teams are that far away from being equals on a neutral. It's weird, Matt, how important your boy Silvio De Sousa is going to be here.
I know.
He needs to be high energy the whole time because Muszynski runs the floor for Belmont. He gets a ton of his points off just simply beating guys down the court, establishing that early position, getting just a little half hook 2 feet from the basket with 22 on the shot clock. That's the Belmont way. Get those easy points early. It's why their 2-point percentage is always so high. But De Sousa can do that. He's athletic. He's mobile. He can get up and down. He's big. He can bother Muszynski with size there. And then, I think it comes down to the guard play. And Kai, they've got big guards. The Chattanooga guys they're broad shouldered, they're strong. Malachi Smith is an elite rebounder. Luke Smith looks like a 6-year-old out there for Belmont.
He does.
He's an absolutely lethal shooter. He's got great hands defensively, but he's tiny. And there's going to be a problem with him trying to guard somebody like a physical guard like Jean-Baptiste. So slight lean to Chattanooga here, the road dog, but this is one I just want to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, I was disappointed. Kudos odds makers. Good job for not giving us the 7 that KenPom has this game at, because I think that'd be too many points. I think Nuga's really good. One of the best offensive rebound teams in the country. Pace battle here is huge, Matt.
Yes.
Chattanooga, 3rd slowest team in the country. They want to slow this game down to a crawl. They want to make it ugly. They're great shooters. So good shooting plus slowing the game down to low possessions. That's a pretty good formula for winning, especially if you're talented all around like Chattanooga is. I do lean their way in this one. Belmont, probably not the team you choose to get sucked in to a slower pace. They can probably control the tempo in any game they play. So it's going to be kind of a tug and push and pull type of thing we're going to see from them tonight. I'm leaning towards Nuga. 5.5 is too low for me to lay any money, though.
Yep, I agree. I made my initial line. I thought it was high. I look at KenPom's, I thought that's high. And the early money's brought it back down to 5.5. I don't think the pace thing is going to bother me. If you're looking to bet Belmont here, they just wanted SLU playing a slower pace game. They can execute the half court just fine. They just look to get early offense in transition and are successful quite often, but they're not going to be bothered by playing a slow court game. This is a Casey Alexander coach team. They're more than welcome and more than capable of executing in a half court type game. The total does feel kind of high, sort of fast team versus slow team. Typically the slow team wins that tempo tug of war. So bet up to 141. But nothing else really strong for me on this game. Let's head back west. Washington State, just talked about them earlier. They are hosting New Mexico State. Chris Jans and the Aggies, man, tough little travel spell here for the WAC darlings, the WAC powerhouse, as they have been the last few years and beyond. It's kind of the big number for, similar to this or Belmont Chattanooga narrative we just spewed out here, Jim, for a mid-major that we really respect, fringe top 100 caliber, depending on where you rank New Mexico State in your overall spectrum. The opening number felt pretty big. What are you looking at here?
I like the under. That's my best bet. Just coming in hot on this game. Yep.
Love it.
I think New Mexico State wants to slow the game down, and Washington State just played a little bit of a track meet with South Dakota State. So I think they're going to be willing participants in a half-court game. They're not a super fast team offensively. I think the lineup shifts that we've seen with Washington State are also conducive to the under. Tyrell Roberts playing a lot less. He's a tiny gunner, so he's helpful on offense, hurtful on defense, so less of him helps unders. And we should see Deshaun Jackson, their big 7-footer, back for this one, adding another rebounder, interior presence, shot blocker that should slow tempo a bit and also help help their interior defense. So I like the under quite a bit. That is my best bet, so I better like it. And then Kai, sidewise, would lean towards a dog, but I kind of think we get a little bit of a Washington State bounce back. They need wins. Like they're pretty close to not having a chance at an at-large resume because they don't have nothing in the non-con. So they need this, but still lean towards Jans on the road.
Yeah, Donnie Tillman probably still not in New Mexico State's lineup. I think they've adjusted to life without him. Certainly a deep team, and they can be physical with Washington State. Obviously, Chris Jam's teams always are. That's kind of the concern on the total side. I agree with you on the under for sure, but if New Mexico State fouls Wazoo 40 times, I mean, they could definitely live at the line. It's happened before. It might happen again. Matt, this is an example of yesterday where I said a good dog mid-major team going into a power squads arena, not going to be intimidated, not going to be scared. Right. Now, didn't work out yesterday too well. If you would have told me Miami, Ohio, Furman, and Georgia State would all not cover yesterday, I would have said you're nuts. But it happened, and that's college basketball. But I do think New Mexico State will stay within the number in this one. 7.5, getting to the point where I'd stay away. But it's a lean towards the Aggies.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for the Aggies, too. They've just won 3 straight road games. You guys mentioned this, all coming without Tillman. I think the denominator the variable that we need to mention is the return of Nate Pryor, former Washington transfer, started last game, played 18 and 34 minutes respectively in the 2 prior wins over UTEP, and then one at New Mexico, and then just one at LMU in Los Angeles. So now they're taking the trip up north. This is going to be their last, the 4th notch on this long road stand. Part of me thinks like, hey, let's finish it out. Let's get this one here. But you could also see it going the other way where they crumble and feel good about those 3 wins if Washington State starts to extend late in the second half. But yeah, it's a well-coached team. I'm not worried about the loss of Tillman at all there, especially with Pryor back in the fold. I lean New Mexico State.
Number's 137 for that under. Sorry.
For that under. Okay. And Jim, I think you're right. If they're going to stay competitive, the Aggies, they need to slow the game down. I think Jans is smart enough to get that done. It's chat mob time. I did not appoint Azar, but I suspect one of you has already taken that task to hand.
Kai, is it me?
I assume Jim took it.
Oh man, you guys are lucky I did, because otherwise we could have been in trouble.
To cancel chat mob guy.
I was hammering it out.
I got the questions on my right. I got them.
All right. Remember that we are leaving the Field of 68 feed, and we will only be on the Field of 68 Best Bets feed. So subscribe to that one. I think we're up to over 700 subscribers, looking to get 1,000 by Friday. That sounds ambitious, but we're trying.
Attainable.
And Mr. Rob Douster will be giving out funds, giving out money, $100 to 5 people if we get there. So make sure you're doing that. Also like the video. We definitely appreciate that. All right. Chat questions. Starting with a twofer from Matt Akers. Kai, going to you first. Winthrop on the road at Elon. It was also mentioned in the chat about, does Elon have any hope of guarding DJ Burns?
Not really, but 4 is a lot of points. Elon's 0-8 against D1 competition. That's not great. I think they're a much better team than they've showed. Schragi is a coach that I think is a good one. I'm actually leaning towards Elon at +4 at home.
Yeah, I'm as well. Chuck Hanna isn't like an all-star post defender, but he's played 2 games. He gives them another body to throw at Burns. That does help. Hopefully at some point they'll get Gerald Gillen's Butler back, the jack of all trades wing, but he's been dealing with injury. Winthrop has some injury issues of their own. Chase Claxton, Corey Hightower both missed their non-D1 game. I would expect at least one of them back, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah, a lot of question marks here. That was the theme I had with this game in general. So tough to feel excited about either side.
All right, Matt, you get the question that confused odds makers, so much so that they had to change rotation numbers. Gardner Webb is at North Carolina Central. This was initially listed with Gardner Webb as the bottom team on the rotation, so they had to move it, make sure it was presented properly. Anything for you here?
2 weeks ago, I would have been all over NC Central because I've had that team overrated all season. But
I've seen
Gardner Webb play twice during that span. They are awesome. I did every little cheat in my odds making spreadsheet here to goose the number up so I wouldn't have to take NC Central. So nothing for me. G Webb is awesome. I'm not fading G Webb the whole year. Probably that's just where I'm at.
Yep, that's probably smart. Eric Boone was out for NC Central. He's been inefficient, but he's one of their few shot creators. So I think that hurts.
Yeah, he carried them in that kind of gross win over, was that at USC Upstate? So yeah, they need him for sure. They lack shooters.
Yeah, basically where Matt's at, where I still have NC Central too overrated probably in my numbers. So I don't quite have them. I'm not taking Gardner Webb here, but my gut says Gardner Webb just wipes them out. It's been a disappointing year for NC Central. All right, Kai, battle in Ohio. Akron at Wright State. Got the Raiders. Their defense has been a sieve so far this year. Akron's been maybe a little better than I expected. What do you think?
Yeah, a lot of I've read a lot of articles on Nagy, his opinion on Wright State's start. It seems like they are just like harping on how bad their defense has been in practice. It's a main focus.
It's bad in games too. I can verify via the eye test.
No, I mean in practice they're harping on improving is what I mean. He recognizes the issue. His players are certainly aware. They've had like 10 days since their last game. Have to think they're uber prepared for this game. He's a great coach. Still think this team has a lot of talent. I lean their way right now. -4. A little bit too high for me for an official take here, but leaning towards Wright State, Matt.
It's not too high for me. Take it now. I like Wright State. First step in solving any problem, Kai, is recognizing there is one. I'm glad that Nagy and the boys have deduced it. They've sniffed it out. They may actually play some zone tonight, and I would love to see Akron try and solve the zone. That would be a fun little experiment that I'll be on the other side of. So yeah, I like the Raiders here.
All right, Matt, right back to you. Austin Rayleigh has a question about Nichols headed to Wisconsin. We talked about how good Nichols is on the road at power conference foes. Wisconsin's coming off the stretch of Marquette and Big Ten games. Does that mean they're in for a letdown here, or do you think the Badgers wipe them out?
Yeah, I could see Nichols winning this game outright. It could see it be a 2-possession game down the stretch. I could also see Wisconsin winning by 40. I just think Nichols needs to score in transition to be efficient.
Hashtag analysis.
I could see this game ending up in a number of ways. Back to you, Jim. But I think there's like two extreme ends of the potential outcome spectrum here. I think Wisconsin does control them pretty easily. Nichols scoring in the half court is not nearly as aesthetically pleasing as when they can get out in transition, and you cannot do that against Wisconsin. So.
You kind of can this year. I mean,
they're
running a little bit. Marquette, they're just playing a little bit faster. Like their average possession length is only like 250th. It's not like they're crawling the ball like usual. Marquette got them to run a little bit, but Marquette's better than Nichols, so we'll see. And Marquette also didn't cover, so that's noteworthy. All right, Kai, we're going to do 2 more, and we'll go back to the outline. Harry R. asking about Campbell hosting Georgia Southern. Mm-hmm. 2 teams that we've had a tough time figuring out, but we potentially like the Camels here, Kai. Is that right?
I'm leaning their way, Jim. They're healthier now. I wanted to get 5. 6 is too much for me here. Whitfield's been back in the lineup for Campbell. Lucene has snuck back in a little bit in the lineup. Seems like he's
like 3 minutes ago.
Yeah, he's on a minutes restriction for sure, but he's edging back up there. Georgia Southern, Matt, not a bad coach team, honestly. I think Berg has done some nice things there. But I am leaning towards Campbell here at home.
Yeah, former Beard assistant. I think last year's team was marred by some individual head cases. Just
more Eric Boone shade. I like that.
It's the second time we throw a punch at it. Zach Bryant also gets a little jab for in that same ilk. I do lean Campbell. Kai's right. Numbers gotten too high. They play slow. It's a number you like to get closer to 4 or 5 if you're going to bet a low possession team as a favorite personally.
Speaking of Bryant for Georgia Southern, Cam Bryant was out last game for them. He's kind of a big stretch 4, shooting almost 50% from deep this year, I think. And without him, that cramps their spacing. He does come off the bench most of the time, though, so you're not going to be able to check lineups for him. That's kind of frustrating. It's the trials and tribulations of betting these mid-major games. All right, last one, Matt. One team that's been a lot better than expected, and one team that's been way worse. In-state battle. Portland headed to Oregon. Anything here? Does Shante Leggins and the boys continue to embarrass Dana Altman?
I worry that Portland just isn't athletic enough. I'm sorry. Yeah, to run with the Ducks. I also can see, back to my stupid, I can see anything happening in this game in type of analysis. Leggins running some really good stuff, and Oregon's offensive meltdowns that we've seen continue to come to fruition here. I would lean the favorite, but nothing strong. Eric Williams, obviously, second game back from injury, and he was not very good in his return. That has to be concerning for a guy who's been their best player this year.
Yep. All right, that's it for now. Griffin, Harry, we got plenty more questions to get to. Matt, I see him. We'll get to him in the next chat section. Howard, Georgetown will be coming in best bets, so don't worry, we're getting to that. Okay, back to you, Matthew.
We're going to Cincinnati for our next game here on the rundown. Xavier, after that demolition of the Bearcats in the crosstown shootout, they now host Morehead State. And in my opinion, Kai, very dangerous dog. Team that struggled early on in the season. But if you remember to our priors back in late summer, this is a squad that we thought would be right up there with the Belmonts and the Murray States at the top of the OVC, 1A, 1B, 1C, however you want to sort those out. They've really kind of fallen below, partly because Murray and Belmont have just been awesome. But Morehead's starting to trickle back, I think, closer to that upper echelon of the OVC. How does that all translate to a spot where they're catching 2 touchdowns plus against a red hot Xavier team?
I don't think Morehead's very good against power competition. I think they're going to be good in the Ohio Valley. I'm scared of Xavier at home. Janai Broom's awesome for Morehead, but Fremantle and Nunji are 2 excellent options to deter him. Xavier's last 3 games at home, they beat Norfolk by 40, Central Michigan by 33, Ball State by 46. And I'll throw one more, Cincinnati by 20. They're 7-0 at home. They're 6-1 against the spread at home. It's a very, very good home team. Morehead, against good competition, lost to Auburn by 23, UAB by 14, Mississippi State by 20. I think they were competitive in all 3 of those for a little bit, and the wheels fell off in the second half. They're just too jump shot reliant for me. I am staying far, far away in this game.
Yeah, I kind of like that, Kai. If you're going to go Morehead, maybe first half is the move. Jalen Hall continuing to emerge for them, the Wright State transfer, the second Wright State transfer on their roster.
Yep.
That's further weaponizing the defense, their switchability. That's making them a lot better. But home Xavier is really, really tough. They are off the Cincinnati game, the shootout, emotional big win. But I looked back at their history, and even under Steele, the game after that, they're not that bad. Like last year, they beat Oklahoma by 20 the game after. So I wouldn't really put too much stock in that letdown spot. So it's lean to Morehead, but I don't really want to get in the way of Xavier, especially when Nate Johnson is shooting 50% from 3. He's absurd.
Yeah, Jim, I was the historical I looked at that too. And for both Xavier and Cincy, although it's been pretty one-sided the last decade, it almost is like a propeller. Like they've been really good the next game. So no hangover I don't see here from the Musketeers, although there are some few favorable matchup components there for Morehead. Ultimately no play for me. Let's go back west to La La Land. USC hosting UC Irvine, another one of these power conference versus solid mid-major types of matchups. It's size on size here, Kai. USC has more of it, as they usually do when they play anyone in the country, especially when you're playing UC Irvine. But Russell Turner always has a bevy of bigs. There are some question marks in the backcourt here. It's not as complete and as solid as a UC Irvine teams that we've seen. From 2017 to 2020, that awesome NCAA tournament run where they dominated through the Big West. But they have the DNA to potentially keep pace with USC. Do you think they do tonight?
No, I think they get absolutely wiped. I think USC is the worst matchup possible for UC Irvine. Last year was a 35-point game. Irvine scored 0.75 points per possession. Colin Welp was 3 for 14 from the floor and had 0 rebounds. That's what USC can do. Zero rebounds.
That's tough.
Welp's awesome, but USC they're too much. The way Irvine wants to score is pounding the paint. They're awesome shooters. They don't shoot a lot of threes, and I just don't think they can overcome USC in this game. It's a terrible matchup for them. I'm leaning towards USC.
Yeah, the lack of Dawson Baker is huge. Their writing kind of talked about it. Their fan forum talked about how they missed his shot creation against Fresno. Well, if you missed it against Fresno, you're going to miss it against USC. We don't know for sure that he's out, but I'm guessing he will be limited or out. And yeah, I mean, this is kind of like if this isn't a rock, paper, scissors matchup, this is rock versus rock. And one rock is just way better. USC is better at everything that Irvine does well. So I'm with Kai. I think this is a big Trojan win. And I haven't been a Trojan believer in the past, but
Same.
I just think this sets up very, very well for them here.
Yeah, the only matchup angle I could dig up in Irvine's favor, they've already played New Mexico State, Boise State, Santa Clara, and Fresno. 4-ish vaunted defenses, but as Kai and Jim just mentioned, this rock is just bigger. It's a bigger asteroid, and I don't know if Irvine can counter that with any sort of other avenue to scoring or getting stops. So I do worry this could get ugly.
USC needs to figure out how to make free throws, though. They're 355th in the country.
Yeah.
Sub 58%. That's the one concern.
And it's why I'm not going to back them.
Yeah.
Right. I think we could just made a bunch of good points for USC here, but in a game that we'll see how fast the tempo is, but you're right. You're going to need to make some free throws down the stretch, I think, here. And USC, not the team you trust to do that. We're going to stay west. Arizona hosting Northern Colorado. I mean, is Arizona the best team in the country, Kai? Are they the second best team? Are they the best team we've ever seen? Are they due for a letdown? No, I think is the answer to that question. The only matchup angle I have with this one is they're again hosting Northern Colorado, which is basically Wyoming light. They've already demolished Wyoming. So shouldn't we just see the same thing again tonight?
I might be a sleepy spot for Arizona. How about that? Like that's your one angle. Yeah. Maybe it's sleep. Maybe they just sleepwalk. I don't really think so. Spread is of course insane, but why would you want to step in front of a wrecking ball that is Arizona right now? Maybe Northern Colorado gets hot. They can certainly shoot it and keep it within 20. I'm not really interested to find out with my own money, Jim. So I'm just going to stay away.
Yeah. I mean, Arizona at home has murdered everybody, just absolutely clobbered teams. And, maybe because of coming off that like kind of bad travel that they had to Illinois, total home run effort to win that on the road, get a slight letdown. I kind of think this team is going to be a little bit immune to letdowns because they're still doubted. They've got Kirk Kriisa, the ultimate energizer firebrand at point guard that kind of prevents them from just getting sleepy and falling off the wayside in games. So I'm staying away just because I do feel like the spread's a little high and the spot scares me, but I'm not going to fade Arizona. And I'm close to auto betting Arizona right now, especially at home, but I can't quite do it here.
I feel like I've waited too long to hop on that train. Jim, I call them the foreign felines. The international flair is real. Like the fact that they predominantly speak French, like behind the scenes and at practice. I think there's something to that. It might be stupid. Like they're less likely to be caught up in the typical distractions that would lead to letdown type spots. And I think that chip on their shoulder with Tommy Lloyd being first year, Kirk Kriisa, all those dudes wanting to prove themselves. You up and down that roster, there's guys who have been overlooked. Koloko. Yes, I think there's still juice in the tank, and there's not going to be any sort of dead spots here. Just worth noting, they did close 16.5 over Wyoming. This one's sitting at 24.5, just to kind of contextualize the handicap there. So implying that Wyoming is 8 points better than Northern Colorado. I'm not sure if I buy that, but
yeah, I think that Arizona win at Illinois has
that's what
their rating.
That was the change. Yeah. Yes, no doubt. All right, our last game here on the outline. I'm getting some shade here in the chat, and rightfully so. I was panicking trying to put together the outline for today's program, and I slapped Temple UCF on the rundown. Temple is playing host. We're going back to Philly. Man, Temple laid a big fat egg and then took a deuce on top of that egg, Kai, against St. Joe's last game. Why should we trust them tonight? And it looks like the early market does not, as they came in and hit UCF pretty hard early.
Not too hard. It's up to 5. Yeah, but first conference game, I tend to think we get a motivated Temple team here actually at home. It's a chance to start over. They've had a rough non-conference. Caliph Battle being out, they covered and beat Vanderbilt and Penn, not like crazy good teams, but still impressive without Battle. We thought they would kind of collapse after that. The game against St. Joe's is kind of a fluke to me. They were 2 for 20 from 3, and they were 7 for 18 from the free throw line.
That's impossibly bad. That is ridiculous.
Neither of those things will happen again. Temple's one of the few teams in the country who can match up with UCF's perimeter size and perimeter length. I think that really helps them here at home. 5 points, that's significant. I really do think the motivation factor is in Temple's favor here at home. First AAC game.
Yeah, the home and motivation, and I mean, not that UCF won't be motivated; it's their first conference game too. But I think you get the up energy from Temple.
Yes.
Just to further contextualize how poor the offensive effort was against St. Joe's, Temple had 3 guys play over 10 minutes and have a 0 O rating. 0. And that's awful.
You didn't do one productive thing on the floor for those 10 minutes for your team.
You did
one
aggressively negative things.
That's reliability.
Yeah. So I'm worried that might be like the crash down to earth without Battle and what the offense is in for without him, especially against a good defensive team with a lot of length and switchability in UCF. So I'm staying away, hands up, gonna just wait for the next one.
Yeah, Jim, that's my worry as well. Is like I think I'm with Kai that this is a rejuvenation type of spot with conference play, but it was just such a bad performance that I think may have unveiled some warts that we maybe didn't see before with the offense limitations in the wake of Battle's injury. We'll see how it plays out here. Maybe they get hype and play well tonight, but those tend to then carry forth as we go down the rest of the season. We'll have to keep tracking that. But yeah, let's go Owls. That's all we got for outline questions today. Back to Chat Mob round 2. Jimmy.
Back to you, Matt. Omaha's heading on the road. Omaha, very much a whack-a-mole team for us right now. They're headed to UNLV, though. Is UNLV going to be good enough as a big, almost 20-point favorite here? They're back at Thomas and Mack. They're not at the intimate setting of the Mandalay Bay Arena. We just have no idea who's going to be on the court for Omaha from game to game.
Down 2 new starters last game on top of Poor Bear Chandler, the former Wichita State transfer, who we touted as meaning a lot to that interior defense, which has been battered and bruised on repeat all season. Unless you have a contact on the Omaha staff that can get us info on who is playing, you don't need to be betting this game. Pick another one. There's other games out there.
Yep. All right, Kai, you get the fair matchup. We're heading to the fair.
Yes.
This is Field at Lee Dickinson. Fairfield at Fairleigh Dickinson. It's from Griffin Hatton. Anything for you here? I know we've got an injury question on the Fairleigh Dickinson side.
Yeah, Dunn might still be out for Fairleigh Dickinson, and that's enough for me to just stay away. I want no piece of Fairleigh Dickinson. I want no piece of fading Fairfield, who's been like a wagon against the spread, like 8-1 against the spread. 9 points, seems high initially. Certainly preseason, I would think it's crazy, but not the way these two teams have been playing. I'm staying away.
All right, Matt, you get a question from Harry. Bellarmine headed to South Dakota. It was brought up by Mr. Jordan Majeski on Twitter that these two coached against each other in D2. I didn't realize that Todd Lee had been at Kentucky Wesleyan. So a little bit of familiarity here. What do you think?
So Bellarmine hasn't played since, haven't played a D1 game since November. They've coming off 3 straight non-D1 wins. I kind of like that spot. I feel like they're a little bit amped to go out and actually play a D1 team today. So we'll see how that plays out. I think the rest is going to help negate what's usually a tough home spot for road teams going into the Dakota proper. So I kind of like the Knights here.
Yeah, and it's different than having 12 days off, playing at least getting on the court against even non-D1 competition. Right, they've been.
The line's still sitting at 1, I think, too. Yeah, so I would take it at +1. The Knights.
All right, Kai, you get one from Pete. This is one I like, so I'm interested to see if you agree. Florida Atlantic is headed to Virginia Commonwealth, the Siegel Center. What can VCU do here?
I hope win and cover, Jim. 10.5 feels high, but with Ace Baldwin in the lineup, this offense is just so much better. They're competent. I think 1.07 points per possession against Old Dominion, a good defensive team. That was the first time I think they went over 1 point per possession this year. That's Ace Baldwin. That's what he brings to the table. True point guard. VCU's defense is top 10 good in the country, maybe even better than that. I think FAU has a tough time scoring, so I'm leaning towards VCU.
Yep, I like VCU too. I just think they're going to be undervalued still for a little bit while Baldwin is getting back into the lineup. With or without Hassan Ward, I still think VCU, they've got more offensive firepower. Their best 2 offensive performances are the last 2 games with Baldwin in there. And he has 10 steals in 40 minutes.
That's incredible.
He's a freak. So he matters quite a bit. So big lean VCU. Matt, another one from Harry. Marshall headed to Ohio. 2 teams we kind of perceive as up and down. So obviously a high total here, but Ohio's potentially short some guys. Do you think Marshall is a live dog on the road in that case?
Yeah, I like Marshall here a lot. It just got bet down too much for me to endorse it. It opened 5-ish. Now it's down to 3.5, 4. Was hoping you could catch 5, but it's not there. So I'd stay away. Look for someone else. I'm sorry.
All righty. I think that's it for the chat. Feel free to yell at me if I missed one. Happens sometimes when we're speaking while also managing the chat.
I just saw one, Jim.
Go for it.
Abilene Christian, Bakersfield. Matt, too many points. Bakersfield is ugly, ugly, ugly.
Yeah, I felt like they were close 3 times to putting Idaho in the torture chamber, and then Idaho almost won the game. So Bakersfield's frustrating, man. They are not a good favorite, but I think they're a great dog. They're not as talented as the typical Rod Barnes team, but they're still very talented. They are athletic. This game's going to be weird. It's going to be turnovers, free throws, ugly, ugly, ugly both ways. And if you put that together, I want to be on the side catching 8 points. So I do like Shake and Baker.
I think Abilene's just better than I gave him credit for. Sort of
really good. They're really good.
I'm starting
to
really,
really good.
Yeah.
I hope not tonight.
Their offense is better. So weirdly lean towards the over in a Bakersfield game, which feels like asking for death, instant death. But all right, that's it for chat. Well, actually, Matt Akers just mentioned Alabama State, UCLA. That game is the final score will be whatever UCLA decides it will be.
Yeah.
Right. If they want it to be 105-50, they can do that. If it's just going to be 80-62, then you kind of it's a whack-a-mole game. UCLA is looking ahead to UNC in Vegas this weekend. I don't know. All right.
Of note, real quick there, Alabama State did just play in Pepperdine, so the travel will not be like a typical you fly out to West Coast, and at least they have that going for them. I still think they lose by 40, but
I think Kai noted this on another show, but Alabama State covered their first 6 games with Trace Young, and their last 4 they have not covered, and he's been out. So sort of worried that without him, they're just a different team. But again, it just comes down to whether UCLA wants to win by 40 or not.
Yep.
So, all right, Maddie, best bets, recap them for him.
I got Weber State. The D. Smith Center are going to bring me some home pup magic tonight. I think they get it done over Utah State. As much as I love Justin Bean, as much as I love Mr. Odom's done there at the helm, I think it's Randy Ray's time tonight. So plus 2.5. Going to Jimbo.
Yep. My best bet was the New Mexico State, Washington State under the nightcap. That was 137 is the number I got. I just think it'll play a little slower. But Kai, we got to get to yours because there's been a lot of chatter in the chat. I want to hear about Georgetown off that Syracuse win. They're hosting Howard. We've hinted that it's in the best bets category. Are you back in the Hoyas again?
No way. I'm back in Howard. Howard plus 10.5 is my best bet. It would be so Georgetown for them to lose outright in this game. It would be.
Money line.
DC.
I think Howard wins.
DC versus DC. I think Howard's motivated, man, to beat Big Brother here. They can do it. They've played big name teams already. They hung with Villanova. They shot like crazy, but that's kind of what they've been doing this year. They're shooting like crazy, and that's enough to stick around within 10.5. Igafe being out of Georgetown's lineup is huge for them. That really hampers Georgetown's rebounding edge. Still going to have an edge, but not nearly as big. Hoping for a Georgetown cold shooting night. We haven't gotten too many of those, but the South Carolina game, we certainly did. Hoping for round 2 here. Go Howard, plus 10.5.
Yeah, Georgetown, ultimate play to your competition team. They just played up to play Syracuse. Now their home's going to be a dead crowd, I think. I think they're going to be not here for this one. And Howard, I mentioned also on another show, they've got a freshman point guard from DC, Elijah Hawkins, that is going to be like, hey, Georgetown, I think you missed me when you were recruiting. So I'm ready to see the Bison get the W here. This is if you can't beat them, join them thing. I've faded Howard a couple times this year and was wrong. So I'm ready for them to get the W, Matthew.
I wish you both luck. I can't believe I'm not pulling out my Maddie Moneyline Sprinkles alter ego here. I'm sitting on the sidelines. I think this spread's a little too short, but you're right. Howard's been great. Georgetown is Georgetown. Got Howard being off for 11 days. They've just been thinking about this game for up and all night.
They might have an ugly start. They might get down like 10-2, but it's okay.
Yeah, get the nerves out a little bit. All right, folks, thanks for coming by today. We are off tomorrow. We are back, I believe, Friday. Or are we off Friday too? Yeah, we're Friday and then into the weekend
I won't
shows.
Be here. It's a 2-man show on Friday.
It's a 2-man crew. Kai, can we live up to the billing? I believe people are trying to elevate us and spotlight us. So we'll have to respond to their calls of action there. Sorry, Jim. We will miss you. Good luck to us tonight on our best bets. Remember, folks, please subscribe to the channel, which will be changing. We'll remind you about that as the time approaches. But for now, smash the like button. Let's get 1,000. Let's get Dowser to shell out some cash. That's what we all want to see. Until Friday, come back. Thank you, BetRivers, for sponsoring this fine program. Until then, good luck.